The knock came at 12:47 a.m., sharp and deliberate against the wood. Noah Carter froze halfway down the stairs, his daughter asleep upstairs, his phone already in his hand. He wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, he saw her, drenched, trembling, eyes wide with something between terror and exhaustion. A stranger. At his door. In the middle of the night. Every instinct screamed at him to walk away. But when she looked up, straight at the lens as if she knew he was watching, something cracked open in his chest. He turned the lock, and everything changed. If you want to see how far this story reaches, drop a comment with the city you're watching from. Hit like, stay until the end. This one's worth it. Noah Carter had learned a long time ago that nothing good happened after midnight. He stood at the top of the stairs in his boxers and an old Georgetown t-shirt, staring down at his front door like it might explode. The knock came again, 3 sharp raps, urgent but controlled. Not the police, not a neighbor. Someone who needed something. His phone buzzed in his hand. 12:48 a.m. He glanced back down the hallway toward his daughter's room. The door was still closed, the nightlight glowing faintly underneath. Mia was 6. She slept like the dead, thank God. But if whoever this was started pounding, he took the stairs 2 at a time, barefoot, adrenaline spiking. Through the peephole, he saw her. A woman, maybe late 20s, soaked to the bone, her dark hair plastered against her face, her clothes clinging to her like she'd been standing in the rain for an hour. She wasn't looking at the door. She was looking over her shoulder, back toward the street, her breath coming in short, visible puffs in the cold air. Noah's hand hovered over the deadbolt. "Come on," she whispered, so quiet he almost didn't hear it. "Please." He didn't open the door. "Who are you?" he called through the wood. She flinched, spun back around. Her eyes found the peephole, and for a second, they locked, hers desperate, his wary. She stepped closer, close enough that he could see the smudged mascara, the split skin on her lower lip. "My name is Lena," she said, her voice raw. "I'm not here to hurt you. I need help. Please, just for tonight." "Help with what?" "I can't." She glanced back again, her whole body tense. "I can't explain out here, please. I'm begging you." Noah stepped back from the door, his pulse hammering. This was insane. He didn't know this woman. She could be anyone, high, running from the cops, setting him up for a robbery. He had a daughter sleeping upstairs. He had a job he couldn't afford to lose. He had exactly 0 margin for error in his life. But when he looked through the peephole again, she was still there, shivering, her arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold herself together. He unlocked the door. She nearly fell through it. "Thank you," she breathed, stumbling into his entryway, dripping water onto the hardwood. "Thank you, Stop." Noah held up a hand, keeping his distance. "You've got 30 seconds to tell me what's going on, or you're back outside." Lena nodded, quick and frantic, wiping her face with the back of her hand. Up close, she looked worse, pale, exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. There was a bruise on her collarbone, dark purple and fresh. "I'm running," she said simply, "from people who want to hurt me. I didn't know where else to go. I saw your light on, and I knocked. I'm sorry, I know this is crazy." "You picked a random house?" "I didn't have a choice." Noah rubbed his face, trying to think. His brain was still catching up to the fact that there was a stranger in his house, soaking wet and clearly terrified. Running from who? It's complicated. Uncomplicate it. She hesitated, her jaw working like she was chewing on the words. "My family," she said finally, "and people who work for them. I left, and they don't want me to stay gone." "Your family?" "Yes." "So call the cops." "I can't." Her voice cracked. "Please, I know how this sounds. I know you don't owe me anything, but if you let me stay tonight, just tonight, I'll be gone in the morning, I swear." Noah stared at her. Every rational part of him was screaming to shut this down, to get her out before Mia woke up, before this turned into something he couldn't control. But there was something in her face, something raw and real, that made him pause. He'd seen that look before. In the mirror. Years ago, when he was the one who didn't know where to go. Bathrooms down the hall. he said quietly. There's towels under the sink. I'll get you some dry clothes. Lena's eyes went wide. You're serious? Don't make me regret it. She nodded fast and disappeared down the hall without another word. Noah stood there for a second, staring at the wet footprints she'd left behind, wondering what the hell he'd just done. Then he locked the door, bolted it twice, and went upstairs to find something she could wear. Oh. When he came back down, she was standing in the living room, wrapped in a towel, her wet clothes in a pile on the floor. She'd stopped shaking, but she still looked like she might bolt at any second. Here. He tossed her a pair of sweatpants and an old flannel. They're going to be big, but it's all I've got. Thank you. She took them, her fingers brushing his for half a second. They were ice cold. He stepped back, crossing his arms. You've got 5 minutes to change. Then you're telling me everything. I will. I promise. She disappeared into the bathroom again, and Noah sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. This was the dumbest thing he'd done in years, letting a complete stranger into his house at 1 a.m. with his daughter upstairs. But something about her, something about the way she'd looked at him through that door, had made it impossible to say no. When she came out, she looked smaller somehow, swallowed up in his clothes, her hair still damp and tangled. She sat down across from him, perched on the edge of the armchair like she might need to run. Okay, Noah said. Talk. Lena took a breath, her hands twisting in her lap. My family owns a company, a big one, Hart Industries. You've probably heard of it. Noah had. Real estate, development, construction. They had buildings all over the East Coast. You're one of those Harts? I was. She looked down. I worked for them. In finance. And I found something I wasn't supposed to find. Like what? Money being moved, offshore accounts, payments to people who shouldn't be getting paid. I started digging, and the more I found, the worse it got. She looked up at him, her eyes hard. My family's empire isn't clean, Noah. And when I tried to bring it to my father, he told me to forget it, to let it go. But you didn't. No, I didn't. Her voice was steady now, sharper. So they tried to make me. They locked me out of my accounts, cut me off. Told me if I said anything to anyone, they'd bury me, legally, financially, whatever it took. Noah leaned back, trying to process. So you ran. I ran, she confirmed, 3 days ago. I've been moving ever since, staying with friends, sleeping in my car, trying to figure out what to do. But tonight, I saw a car following me. Black sedan, tinted windows. I lost them somewhere around Silver Spring, but I didn't want to risk going back to where I was staying, so I just drove and ended up here. She said it all so calmly, like she was reciting a grocery list. But her hands were still shaking. And you think they're still looking for you, Noah said. I know they are. He rubbed his jaw, the stubble rough under his palm. This was bad. This was way worse than he'd thought. You need to go to the police. With what? I don't have proof, not anymore. They wiped everything I had saved, and even if I did, do you know how many people my family has in their pocket? Lawyers, politicians, judges? She shook her head. The cops can't help me. Not yet. So what's your plan? I don't have one. She laughed, bitter and sharp. I'm making this up as I go. Noah didn't say anything for a long moment. He just looked at her, this woman who'd shown up at his door with nothing, running from people who had everything. It was the kind of story that should have sent him running in the opposite direction. But he didn't move. You can stay tonight, he said finally. But tomorrow, we figure this out. You can't just keep running forever. Lena's eyes filled just for a second before she blinked it away. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. He stood up. Couch is yours. I'll get you a blanket. And Lena? She looked up. If you're lying to me, if this is some kind of scam, I will throw you out so fast you won't know what hit you. Are we clear? Crystal. He nodded and went to grab the blanket, leaving her sitting there in his living room, small and drenched and dangerous in ways he couldn't even begin to understand yet. Upstairs, Noah checked on Mia. She was still asleep, curled up under her butterfly comforter, her stuffed giraffe tucked under one arm. He kissed her forehead, smoothed her hair back, and stood there for a second, just watching her breathe. He thought about his ex-wife, about the custody battle that had nearly destroyed him, about the year he'd spent sleeping on couches and scraping together rent. He thought about how hard he'd fought to get to this point, to have a home, a job, a life that was stable enough for Mia to feel safe in, and now he'd just let a stranger into it. He went back downstairs. Lena was already lying down, the blanket pulled up to her chin, her eyes closed. She looked younger like that, vulnerable. Noah sat on the couch across from her, his phone in his hand, and pulled up a search for Hart Industries. The first result was a photo of a man in his 60s, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, standing in front of a glass tower. Charles Hart, CEO. The caption called him a titan of industry, a self-made billionaire, a philanthropist. Noah scrolled down. There were photos of charity galas, ribbon-cutting ceremonies, press releases about new developments. Everything looked clean, polished, perfect. He glanced over at Lena. She hadn't moved. If she was telling the truth, this man, this titan, was hunting his own daughter. Noah locked his phone and set it down, staring at the ceiling. He didn't sleep. Morning came gray and cold, the kind of November morning that made you want to stay in bed forever. Noah was in the kitchen, making coffee, when he heard footsteps behind him. Lena stood in the doorway, still wearing his clothes, her hair pulled back in a messy knot. She looked better, less like she was about to collapse, but the wariness was still there, tight around her eyes. "Morning," she said quietly. "Morning." He poured her a cup without asking. "You sleep?" "A little." She took the mug, wrapping both hands around it. "You?" "Not really." They stood there in silence for a minute, the only sound the hum of the refrigerator and the drip of the coffee maker. "I looked you up," Noah said. Lena didn't flinch. "And? Your family's got a hell of a PR team." "They should. They pay enough for it." He took a sip of his coffee, watching her over the rim. "You know I'm risking a lot, letting you stay here." "I know. I've got a daughter. She's 6. And if your people show up here, they won't." Lena's voice was firm. "I'll leave before that happens. I promise." "You don't know that." "I'll make sure of it." Noah set his mug down, crossing his arms. "What happens when you run out of places to go?" She didn't answer. "Lena." "I don't know, okay?" She set her own mug down, harder than she meant to, coffee sloshing over the side. "I don't know what happens next. I'm just trying to survive the next 24 hours. Her voice cracked on the last word, and she turned away, her shoulders rigid. Noah sighed. He shouldn't care. He barely knew her. But standing there, watching her try to hold herself together, he couldn't help it. "Stay," he said. She turned back, eyes wide. "What?" "Stay. For a couple of days. Until you figure out your next move." He held up a hand before she could argue. "I'm not saying forever. And I'm not saying I trust you, but you clearly need time, and I'm not going to throw you out when you've got nowhere to go." Lena stared at him like he'd just spoken a foreign language. "Why would you do that?" "Because I've been there." He picked up his coffee again, looking away. "Not exactly like this, but close enough." She didn't say anything for a long time. When he finally glanced back, her eyes were shining. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't make me regret it." "I won't." Mia came downstairs 20 minutes later, still in her pajamas, her hair a tangled mess. She stopped dead when she saw Lena sitting at the kitchen table. "Daddy, who's that?" Noah crouched down, pulling her into a hug. "This is Lena. She's a friend. She's going to stay with us for a little while." Mia peeked around him, her brown eyes huge. "Hi." Lena smiled, soft and genuine. "Hi, Mia. I like your giraffe." Mia looked down at the stuffed animal in her arms, then back up at Lena. "His name is Mr. Legs." "That's a great name." "He has really long legs." "I can see that." Mia giggled, and just like that, the tension in the room cracked open. Noah watched them, something tight in his chest loosening just a fraction. Maybe this wouldn't be a disaster. Maybe. The first day passed quietly. Lena kept to herself, mostly, reading, staring out the window, helping Mia with a puzzle without being asked. She didn't talk much, and Noah didn't push. He had work to do anyway, emails to answer, calls to make. He ran a small consulting firm out of his home office, helping startups with logistics and supply chain management. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. By the time he came out of his office that evening, Mia and Lena were sitting on the floor, building a tower out of blocks. "No, you have to put the big one on the bottom," Mia was saying, very seriously. "Oh, you're right, I wasn't thinking." Lena moved the block and Mia beamed. Noah leaned against the doorframe, watching. There was something surreal about it. This stranger in his house, playing with his daughter like it was the most natural thing in the world. Lena glanced up and caught him staring. She smiled, small and tentative. He smiled back. "You dumb." That night, after Mia was asleep, they sat in the living room again. Lena had changed back into the flannel and sweatpants, her legs tucked under her on the couch. "She's sweet," Lena said. "Your daughter." "She is." Noah took a sip of his beer. "She's been through a lot. Her mom and I split when she was 3. It was ugly. I'm sorry." "Don't be. We're better off." He paused. "Mia's mom didn't want custody. She wanted out. So I fought for full custody, and I got it. But it wasn't cheap." Lena looked at him, really looked at him. "That must have been hard." "It was. But I'd do it again in a heartbeat." She nodded, something shifting in her expression. "You're a good dad." "I'm trying." They sat in silence for a while, the kind that didn't feel awkward, just quiet. "Can I ask you something?" Lena said eventually. "Sure." "Why did you really let me stay?" Noah thought about it. "Honestly, I don't know. I just couldn't turn you away." She tilted her head, studying him. "You're not like most people." "I'll take that as a compliment." "You should." Done. The second day started the same way. Coffee, quiet conversation, Mia bouncing between them like a pinball. But around noon, Noah noticed something. A black sedan parked across the street. He didn't say anything at first. It could have been nothing. A neighbor's guest. Someone lost. But it didn't move. He watched it from the window, his pulse starting to pick up. The windows were tinted. He couldn't see inside. "Lena," he said, his voice low. She looked up from where she was helping Mia color. "What?" "Come here." She stood, crossing to the window. When she saw the car, all the color drained from her face. "That's them," she whispered. "You sure?" "I'm sure." Noah's mind raced. Okay, we need to." The car door opened. A man stepped out. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark suit. He looked directly at the house, then started walking toward it. "Lena, get Mia upstairs. Now." "Noah, now." She grabbed Mia's hand, scooping her up despite her protests, and disappeared up the stairs. Noah stayed at the window, watching the man approach. His heart was pounding, but his hands were steady. The knock came, sharp, deliberate. Noah opened the door before the man could knock again. "Can I help you?" he said, his voice flat. The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm looking for someone. A woman. Late 20s, dark hair, goes by Lena Hart. I have reason to believe she's here. Don't know anyone by that name." The man's smile didn't waver. "Mr. Carter, let's not waste each other's time. We know she's been here. We just want to talk to her." "I don't know what you're talking about." The man stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Her family is very concerned. They just want her to come home. If you're harboring her, you're putting yourself and your daughter in a difficult position." Noah's jaw tightened. "Get off my property." The man held his gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded, still smiling. "Have a good day, Mr. Carter." He walked back to the car, got in, and drove away. Noah stood there, his fists clenched, his whole body vibrating with adrenaline. When he turned around, Lena was standing at the bottom of the stairs, Mia's hand still in hers. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice shaking. "I'm so sorry. I'll leave right now. No." She blinked. "What? You're not leaving." Noah crossed to her, his eyes hard. "Not like this. Not because they scared you into it. Noah, you heard him. They know I'm here. They're not going to stop. Then we make them stop." She stared at him. "How?" "I don't know yet." He looked down at Mia, who was watching them both with wide, worried eyes. He crouched down, smoothing her hair. "Hey, Bug, you okay?" She nodded, but her lip was trembling. "It's okay, everything's fine, I promise." He kissed her forehead, then stood, looking back at Lena. "We're not running, not yet. You don't understand what you're dealing with. So explain it to me. Lena hesitated, then nodded. Okay, but not here, and not with her listening. Fine. Tonight, after she's asleep. That night, after Mia was tucked in and the house was quiet, they sat at the kitchen table. Lena had a laptop open in front of her, a USB drive in her hand. I lied, she said. Earlier, when I said I didn't have proof. I do. I just didn't want to involve you more than I already had. She plugged in the drive and files started populating the screen. Documents, spreadsheets, emails. This is everything I found, she said. Offshore accounts. Shell companies. Payments to contractors who don't exist. My family's been laundering money for years, hundreds of millions. Noah leaned closer, scanning the files. Jesus. And it's not just money. There are names here. Politicians, judges, police officers. People they've paid off to look the other way. Why didn't you go to the feds with this? Because I don't know who I can trust. If I hand this over to the wrong person, it disappears. And so do I. Noah sat back, running a hand through his hair. So what's the play? I don't know. I've been trying to figure that out for days. She looked at him, her eyes desperate. But if they know I'm here, we don't have much time. They'll come back, and next time, they won't just knock. Noah looked at the screen, at the files that could bring down an empire. Then he looked at Lena. We go public, he said. What? We leak it, all of it. Send it to every journalist, every watchdog group, every media outlet we can find. Make it impossible for them to bury. Lena's eyes widened. That's insane. You got a better idea? She didn't. Okay, she said slowly. Okay, let's do it. They worked through the night, compiling the files, drafting emails, building a list of contacts. By the time the sun started to rise, they'd sent everything. And then they waited. Bus. The response came faster than Noah expected. By noon, the story was everywhere. News outlets, social media, blogs, everyone was covering it. Hart Industries scandal, corruption at the highest levels, billionaire family under investigation. Noah watched it unfold on his laptop, his heart pounding. Lena stood behind him, her hand on his shoulder, her grip tight. We did it, she whispered. We did. But even as he said it, he knew this wasn't over, not even close. The knock came again that evening, but this time it wasn't just one man. It was three. Noah opened the door, and the man from before was standing there, flanked by two others. His smile was gone. Mr. Carter, he said, we need to talk. Noah didn't move. I've got nothing to say to you. Then you'll say it to the police. We're filing a report, harassment, theft, defamation. Take your pick. Good luck with that. The man's eyes narrowed. You have no idea what you've done. Yeah, I do. Noah stepped forward, his voice low and hard. I just made sure the whole world knows what you are. So unless you want to add assault to the list, get the hell off my porch. The man stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned and walked away, the others following. Noah closed the door, locked it, and leaned against it, his chest heaving. Lena was standing in the hallway, tears streaming down her face. Thank you, she said. Noah crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. She buried her face in his chest, shaking. It's over, he said. It's over. But even as he held her, he knew he was lying. This was just the beginning. The first 48 hours after the leak were chaos. Noah's phone didn't stop ringing. Reporters, lawyers, people claiming to be federal investigators. Everyone wanted a comment, a statement, confirmation that he was the one who'd helped Lena Hart go public. He didn't answer any of them. He just let the calls go to voicemail, deleted the messages, and kept his head down. Lena barely left the couch. She sat there with her laptop open, refreshing news sites every few minutes, watching her family's empire crumble in real time. The story had grown legs. Federal agencies were opening investigations. Shareholders were demanding answers. Charles Hart had released a statement denying everything, calling the leaked documents fabricated and malicious, but nobody was buying it. The evidence was too clean, too detailed. Noah brought her coffee around mid-morning on the third day, setting it down on the table in front of her. She didn't look up. You need to eat something, he said. I'm not hungry. Lena, I said I'm not hungry. Her voice was flat, hollow. He sat down across from her, watching her stare at the screen. Her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, which, knowing her, she probably hadn't. This is what you wanted, he said quietly. You wanted them exposed. I know. Then why do you look like you're at a funeral? She finally looked up, and there was something broken in her expression. Because I just destroyed my own family, Noah. I know they're terrible. I know what they did, but they're still my family. He didn't have an answer for that. He just reached across the table and covered her hand with his. She didn't pull away. My mother called, she said after a moment. Last night. I didn't answer, but she left a voicemail. What'd she say? That I'm dead to her, that I've ruined everything they built, that she hopes I can live with what I've done. Lena's voice cracked. And the worst part is, she's not wrong. I did ruin it. I burned it all down. They ruined it themselves, Noah said firmly. You just made sure people knew. She pulled her hand back, wrapping both arms around herself. It doesn't feel like winning. It's not supposed to. She laughed, bitter and sharp. Then what's the point? The point is you're still here. You're still breathing, and they don't get to control you anymore. Lena looked at him for a long moment, her eyes searching his face like she was trying to figure out if he actually believed that or if he was just saying it to make her feel better. You're a good person, she said finally. I'm really not. You are. You just don't want to admit it. Before he could argue, Mia came bounding into the room, her hair in lopsided pigtails, Mr. Legs tucked under one arm. Daddy, can we go to the park? Noah glanced at Lena, then back at Mia. Not today, Bug. Why not? Because we're staying home today. Mia's face fell. But you said we could go yesterday. I know. I'm sorry. We'll go soon, okay? You always say that. She stomped off and Noah sighed, rubbing his face. He hated disappointing her. But the truth was, he didn't feel safe leaving the house. Not with everything that was happening, not with the possibility that someone might still be watching. Lena stood up, wrapping her arms around herself. I should go. What? I should leave. This isn't fair to you, to her. You're stuck in your own house because of me. Lena, I mean it, Noah. You've done enough, more than enough. But I can't keep putting you and Mia at risk. Where are you going to go? She didn't answer. Exactly. He stood up, crossing to her. You stay. We figure this out together, okay? She looked up at him, her eyes shining. Why do you keep doing this? Doing what? Helping me. You don't owe me anything. I know. Then why? He hesitated, trying to find the right words. The truth was, he didn't entirely know. Maybe it was because he'd been in her position once, desperate, alone, with nowhere to go. Maybe it was because he saw something in her that reminded him of himself. Or maybe it was just because, for the first time in a long time, helping someone else made him feel like he was doing something that mattered. Because you're worth it, he said finally. Her breath hitched, and for a second he thought she might cry. But she just nodded, quick and tight, and turned away. Noah watched her go, something twisting in his chest. This was getting complicated. That afternoon, while Mia was napping, Noah got a call from a number he didn't recognize. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Carter? The voice on the other end was smooth, professional. My name is David Ortiz. I'm an attorney with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Maryland. I was hoping we could talk. Noah's stomach dropped. About what? About Lena Hart and the documents she released. I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Carter, I'm not here to make trouble for you. I'm here because we need Miss Hart's cooperation. The information she leaked is credible, but we need her testimony to build a case. And I understand she's been staying with you. Noah didn't say anything. I'm not asking you to give her up, Ortiz continued. I'm asking you to tell her that we can protect her. If she's willing to work with us, we can make sure she's safe. But she needs to come in, soon. And if she doesn't, then this gets a lot harder. For everyone. Noah closed his eyes. I'll tell her. Thank you. Here's my number. Have her call me when she's ready. The line went dead. Noah sat there for a minute, staring at his phone, trying to process. This was exactly what Lena had been afraid of. The feds getting involved, asking her to testify, putting her in the middle of a legal nightmare that could drag on for years. He found her in the guest room, sitting on the bed, staring out the window. "That was the U.S. Attorney's office," he said. She didn't turn around. "What'd they want?" "You. They want you to testify." "Of course they do." "Lena, they said they can protect you." "They can't." She finally looked at him, her expression hard. "You know how many witnesses disappear every year? How many people go into protection and end up dead anyway? I'm not doing it. So what's your plan? Just hide forever?" "If I have to." Noah crossed the room, sitting down next to her. "That's not a life. It's better than being dead." "Is it?" She turned to him, her eyes blazing. "You don't get it, Noah. These people, my family, they don't lose. They don't go down quietly. And if I testify, if I put myself out there, they will find a way to destroy me. They already have." "Then you make sure they can't." "How?" "By finishing what you started. By making sure everyone knows exactly what they did. By standing up and saying, 'Yeah, I did this, and I'd do it again.'" She stared at him like he'd lost his mind. "You're insane." "Maybe, but I'm also right." She shook her head, looking away. "I can't." "Yes, you can." "Noah." "Lena, listen to me." He grabbed her hand, forcing her to look at him. "I know you're scared. I know this is hard, but you're stronger than you think. And if you run now, you'll spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. Is that really what you want?" Her jaw worked, her eyes filling with tears. "I don't know what I want." "Then figure it out, but don't do it alone." She pulled her hand back, wiping her face. "You're a real pain in the ass, you know that?" "I've been told." She laughed, watery and broken, and leaned her head against his shoulder. He didn't move. He just sat there, letting her breathe. "I'll think about it," she said quietly. "That's all I'm asking." That night, after Mia was asleep, they sat in the living room with a bottle of wine between them. Neither of them were big drinkers, but it felt like the kind of night that called for it. "Can I ask you something?" Lena said, swirling her glass. "Sure." "Why'd you and your ex split?" Noah took a sip, stalling. "She didn't want to be a mom. Not really. She thought she did, but after Mia was born, she just checked out. Stopped coming home, stopped trying. And when I confronted her, she told me she'd made a mistake, that she wasn't cut out for this." "That's awful." "It was. But honestly, it was better than her staying and resenting us." He looked down at his glass. "I fought for custody because I knew Mia deserved better, and I wasn't going to let her grow up thinking she wasn't wanted." Lena was quiet for a moment. "You're a really good dad." "I'm doing my best." "It shows." He glanced at her and their eyes met. There was something in her gaze, something warm and uncertain, that made his chest tighten. "What about you?" he asked. "Ever think about having kids?" She laughed, sharp and bitter. "No, I was too busy building a career I thought mattered, and now look where I am." "You're here. That matters." "Does it?" "Yeah, it does." She held his gaze for a beat too long, and Noah felt something shift between them, something he wasn't ready to name. He looked away first. "We should get some sleep," he said, standing up. Lena nodded, but she didn't move. "Noah?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for everything." "Stop thanking me." "I mean it." He looked at her, standing there in his too big clothes, her hair falling around her face, and felt that same pull in his chest. "Get some sleep, Lena." She smiled, small and sad. "You too." The next morning, Noah woke up to the sound of breaking glass. He was out of bed in seconds, his heart hammering, his mind racing. He grabbed the baseball bat he kept by the door and crept downstairs, every nerve on high alert. The living room window was shattered, glass scattered across the floor. And in the middle of it all, lying on the carpet, was a brick. Lena was already there, standing in the doorway, her face pale. "Stay back," Noah said, moving past her to the window. He looked outside, scanning the street. There was no one, just parked cars and empty sidewalks. He picked up the brick. There was a note wrapped around it, held in place with a rubber band. He unfolded it. "Stop talking, or next time it won't be a window." Noah's blood went cold. Lena was behind him, reading over his shoulder. They know we're still here. Yeah. We need to call the police. And tell them what? That someone threw a brick through my window? They'll file a report and do nothing. Noah, I'm not letting them scare us. He crumpled the note, his jaw tight. If they want to fight, they'll get one. This isn't a fight you can win. Watch me. He pulled out his phone and dialed the number Ortiz had given him. The attorney picked up on the second ring. Mr. Carter? We're in. Lena's ready to talk. There was a pause. When? Today. As soon as you can get here. I'll be there in an hour. Noah hung up and turned to Lena. She was staring at him, her eyes wide. What did you just do? I made a choice. You can't make that choice for me. I'm not. But I'm also not going to sit here and wait for them to hurt you. Or Mia. So you're going to talk to the feds, you're going to tell them everything, and we're going to end this. Noah, Lena, please. Trust me. She looked at him for a long moment, her face a mess of fear and frustration and something else he couldn't quite name. Fine, she said finally. But if this goes sideways, I'm blaming you. Fair enough. Ortiz arrived exactly 1 hour later, flanked by 2 agents. He was younger than Noah expected, maybe mid-30s, with sharp eyes and an easy confidence that put Noah on edge. Ms. Hart, he said, shaking Lena's hand, thank you for agreeing to meet. I didn't have much choice. You always have a choice. He gestured to the couch. Mind if we sit? They spent the next 2 hours going over everything. Lena's role at Hart Industries, what she'd found, how she'd gotten the documents, who else might be involved. Ortiz took notes, asked pointed questions, and didn't let her dodge anything. Noah sat in the corner, watching. Mia was upstairs, watching a movie with headphones on, completely oblivious to what was happening below. Here's the deal, Ortiz said finally, setting his pen down. We can protect you, but you're going to have to testify. In front of a grand jury and potentially in court. It's not going to be easy. Your family will come after you, legally, publicly, every way they can. But if you're willing to see this through, we can make sure you're safe. Define safe, Lena said. Protective custody. Relocation if necessary. New identity if it comes to that. And what about him? She nodded toward Noah. What about Mia? They're not in danger. Not from us, anyway. That's not what I asked. Ortiz looked at Noah, then back at Lena. If you're concerned about retaliation, we can arrange protection for them too, temporarily. No, Noah said. Everyone turned to look at him. I'm not putting Mia through that, he continued. She's 6. She doesn't need to be in a safe house because of something I chose to do. Mr. Carter, I appreciate the offer, but we're fine. Lena was staring at him, her expression unreadable. Ortiz sighed. All right, but if that changes, you let me know. I will. The attorney stood, gathering his notes. Ms. Hart, I'll be in touch. We'll need you to come in for a formal deposition in the next few days. Until then, stay put. Don't talk to anyone about this. And if you're contacted by anyone connected to your family, you call me immediately. Understood? Lena nodded. Good. He handed her a card. My direct line. Use it. And then he was gone, the agents trailing behind him, leaving Noah and Lena alone in the wreckage of the living room. Lena turned to him, her arms crossed. You didn't have to do that. Do what? Turn down protection for you and Mia. I meant what I said. I'm not dragging her into this more than she already is. Noah, these people don't mess around. Neither do I. She stared at him, something fierce and fragile in her eyes. You're an idiot. Probably. A stubborn, reckless idiot. Are you done? She stepped closer, so close he could see the gold flecks in her eyes, the way her breath hitched. No. And then she kissed him. It was sudden, desperate, the kind of kiss that tasted like fear and relief and something neither of them wanted to name. Noah froze for half a second, then kissed her back, his hands coming up to cradle her face. When they broke apart, they were both breathing hard. That was, Noah started. A mistake, Lena finished, stepping back. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. Lena. I should go check on Mia. Lena, wait. But she was already gone, disappearing up the stairs, leaving him standing there with the taste of her still on his lips. Noah sank onto the couch, running a hand through his hair. This was bad. This was really, really bad. Dad. The next few days were tense. Lena went in for her deposition, spent hours answering questions, and came back looking like she'd been put through a ringer. Noah tried to give her space, but it was hard when they were living in the same house, orbiting around each other like magnets caught between pulling closer and pushing away. They didn't talk about the kiss. Mia, meanwhile, had decided that Lena was the best thing that had ever happened. She followed her around, asked her a million questions, insisted she help with everything from homework to bedtime stories. And Lena, to her credit, never said no. Noah watched them one evening, sitting on the floor together, building a tower out of blocks again. Mia was laughing, her face lit up in a way he hadn't seen in months. "You're good with her," he said. Lena glanced up, smiling. "She's easy to be good with. Still, she doesn't warm up to people this fast. Maybe she knows I need her as much as she needs me." The words hung in the air, heavier than they should have been. Mia knocked over the tower, giggling, and Lena laughed with her, the sound bright and genuine. Noah's chest ached. A week after the deposition, Ortiz called with an update. "We've got enough to move forward," he said. "Grand jury's convening next month. We'll need Ms. Hart to testify, but after that, the indictments should be swift. Charles Hart, 3 of his executives, and at least 2 city officials. This is big, Mr. Carter, bigger than we thought." "Good. There's something else. We've been monitoring communications tied to Hart Industries. There's been chatter, threats, mostly, against you, against Ms. Hart. I think it's time we talk about protection again." "I told you, I know what you told me, but these aren't idle threats. Someone tried to run Ms. Hart off the road 2 days ago. She didn't report it, but we have traffic cam footage." Noah's blood went cold. "What?" "She's fine, shaken, but fine. But Mr. Carter, this isn't going away. And if you're not going to protect yourself, at least let us protect her." Noah hung up and found Lena in the kitchen making tea. "Someone tried to kill you," he said flatly. She didn't look up. "It wasn't that serious." "Lena, I handled it." "You should have told me." "Why? So you could worry more than you already do?" He crossed the room, grabbing her by the shoulders, forcing her to look at him. "If something happens to you, it won't. You don't know that." "Neither do you." They stood there, locked in a stare, the air between them electric. "I can't lose you," Noah said quietly. Lena's eyes widened, and for a moment, neither of them moved. Then Mia's voice echoed from upstairs. "Daddy, I need help." The spell broke. Noah let go, stepping back, and Lena turned away, her hands shaking as she poured the tea. "Go," she said. "She needs you." He hesitated, then left, his heart still hammering. This was getting out of control. That night, after Mia was asleep, Noah couldn't stop pacing. Lena sat on the couch, watching him. "You're going to wear a hole in the floor," she said. "I'm fine." "You're really not." He stopped, turning to face her. "What do you want from me, Lena?" "What?" "You kiss me, then act like it didn't happen. You almost get killed and you don't tell me. You're risking everything, and you won't let me help. So what do you want?" She stood up, her expression fierce. "I want you to stop acting like you're responsible for me. I want you to stop putting yourself in danger because you think you owe me something. And I want you to stop looking at me like what? Like you care. I do care. You shouldn't." Too late. The words landed between them like a grenade. Lena's breath hitched. "Noah, I care about you, Lena, more than I should. And I know that's complicated, and I know this whole situation is a mess, but I can't just turn it off." She stared at him, her eyes shining. "You're going to get hurt." "I don't care." "I do." She crossed to him, and this time when she kissed him, it wasn't desperate. It was careful, deliberate, real. When they pulled apart, Noah rested his forehead against hers. "We're going to figure this out. You promise?" "I promise." They didn't sleep that night. They sat on the couch, legs tangled together under a blanket, talking in low voices about everything and nothing. Lena told him about growing up in her family, the galas, the expectations, the way her father would look at her like she was a balance sheet instead of a daughter. Noah told her about the year after his divorce, sleeping in his car some nights because he couldn't afford rent, and a lawyer at the same time. How he'd promised himself he'd never let Mia see him that broken. But she did see it, didn't she? Lena said quietly. Yeah, she was only 3, but kids know, they feel it. He rubbed his thumb across her knuckles. That's why I fight so hard to keep things stable now. She's already been through enough. You know she adores you, right? I hope so. She does. I see it every time she looks at you. Noah smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. What about you? You ever look at your dad like that? Lena went quiet. When I was little, maybe, before I understood what he was. Before I realized that everything he built was rotting from the inside. She paused. I used to think he was untouchable, invincible. And now I'm the one who's going to take him down. You okay with that? I have to be. He pulled her closer and she rested her head on his shoulder. Outside, the first light of dawn was starting to creep through the curtains. We should try to sleep, Noah said. I don't think I can. Me neither. They stayed like that, holding on to each other as the world outside started to wake up. The call came 3 days later, right when Noah was making breakfast. Mia was at the table, coloring, and Lena was reading something on her laptop. His phone buzzed, and when he saw Ortiz's name, his stomach dropped. Carter, he answered. We've got a problem. Ortiz's voice was tight. Someone leaked that Ms. Hart is cooperating with us. It's all over the news. Her name, her testimony, everything. Noah's hand clenched around the phone. How? We're still figuring that out, but the damage is done. Charles Hart just released a statement calling his daughter a liar and a traitor. He's mobilizing his legal team. And there's more. What? There's a warrant out for your arrest. Noah's blood went cold. What are you talking about? Hart Industries filed charges. They're claiming you coerced Ms. Hart, stole proprietary documents, and engaged in criminal conspiracy. It's bullshit, and we know it, but they've got a judge in their pocket who signed off on it. You need to turn yourself in before they come for you. I didn't do anything. I know, but that doesn't matter right now. If you don't come in voluntarily, they'll send officers to your house. And with your daughter there, don't. Noah cut him off, his jaw tight. Don't finish that sentence. Lena was staring at him, her face pale. Mia looked up from her coloring book, sensing the tension. Daddy, what's wrong? Nothing, Bug. Keep coloring. He walked into the hallway, lowering his voice. What do I do? You come to the federal building, now. We'll process you, get you in front of a judge, and have you out by tonight, but you need to move fast. Noah closed his eyes. Okay, I'm on my way. He hung up and turned around. Lena was standing in the doorway. They're arresting you, she said. Yeah. Because of me. Because of them. He grabbed his jacket. I need to go. Can you watch Mia? Of course, but Noah, I'll be fine. Ortiz says it's just processing. I'll be back tonight. You don't know that. He crossed to her, cupping her face. Hey, look at me. I'm not going anywhere, okay? She nodded, but her eyes were wet. Take care of Mia. I'll call you as soon as I can. He kissed her forehead, then went back into the kitchen. Mia was still coloring, humming to herself. Hey, Bug, I've got to go out for a little bit. Lena's going to hang out with you, okay? Where are you going? Just some boring grown-up stuff. I'll be back soon. She frowned. You promise? I promise. He kissed the top of her head, grabbed his keys, and left before he could second-guess himself. The federal building was downtown, a gray concrete monolith that looked like it had been designed to intimidate. Noah parked in the lot, took a breath, and walked inside. Ortiz was waiting for him in the lobby. Mr. Carter, thanks for coming in. Did I have a choice? Not really. Ortiz gestured toward the elevators. Let's get this over with. The next 2 hours were a blur. Fingerprints, mugshot, paperwork. They put him in a holding cell for 20 minutes while they waited for a judge to sign off on his release. Noah sat on the metal bench, staring at the concrete wall, trying not to think about Mia's face when he left. When they finally let him out, Ortiz was waiting with a folder. You're clear. Judge threw out the warrant, said there wasn't enough evidence to support the charges. Noah exhaled. So I can go home. You can. But Carter, this is just the beginning. They're going to come at you hard, and they're going to use every tool they have to make your life hell. Let them. Ortiz studied him. You really care about her, don't you? Noah didn't answer. Just be careful. People like the Harts don't fight fair. Neither do I. When Noah got home, Mia was asleep on the couch, her head in Lena's lap. Lena looked up when he walked in, and the relief on her face was so raw it nearly knocked him over. You're back, she whispered. I'm back. She carefully shifted Mia's head onto a pillow, then stood and crossed to him. She didn't say anything. She just wrapped her arms around him and held on. Noah buried his face in her hair, breathing her in. I'm okay. I know, Her voice broke. I thought they might keep you. They tried. Didn't work. She pulled back, looking up at him. This is my fault. Stop saying that. It's true. Lena, listen to me. He took her face in his hands. I made my choice. I knew what I was getting into, and I'd do it again. You hear me? I'd do it again. She kissed him then, hard and desperate, and he kissed her back, pouring everything he couldn't say into it. When they broke apart, they were both breathing hard. We need to talk, Lena said. About what? About what happens next. They sat at the kitchen table, the house quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. Lena had made tea, but neither of them were drinking it. The grand jury convenes in 2 weeks, she said. Ortiz thinks they'll indict my father and at least 5 others, but he also said the trial could take years. So what does that mean for you? It means I'm stuck, testifying, depositions, court appearances, my life on hold while they drag this out. She looked down at her hands. And it means you're stuck too, because as long as I'm here, they're going to keep coming after you. I don't care. You should. You have Mia to think about. I'm thinking about her, and I'm thinking about you, and I'm thinking that running isn't the answer. Then what is? Noah leaned back, crossing his arms. We go on offense. What does that mean? It means we stop waiting for them to make the next move. We start controlling the narrative. You've already exposed them. Now we make sure everyone knows exactly who they are. Lena frowned. How? You do interviews, you tell your story, you put a face to the documents, make it personal, make it impossible for people to ignore. That's insane. My father will destroy me. He's already trying. At least this way you're fighting back. She stared at him, her jaw tight. You're really serious about this. Dead serious. And if it backfires? Then we deal with it. Together. Lena was quiet for a long moment, her eyes searching his face. Then she nodded, slow and deliberate. Okay, let's do it. The first interview was with a national news network, a primetime sit-down that Ortiz helped arrange. Lena was terrified. Noah could see it in the way her hands shook when she got dressed, the way she kept checking her reflection in the mirror like she didn't recognize herself. You're going to be great, he said, standing behind her. I'm going to throw up. You're not. How do you know? Because you're the bravest person I've ever met. She turned around, her eyes wet. I don't feel brave. You don't have to feel it. You just have to do it. She nodded, taking a shaky breath. Okay. The interview was filmed in a studio downtown. Noah stayed in the green room with Mia, who was munching on crackers and watching cartoons on an iPad, completely oblivious to the magnitude of what was happening. When Lena came back an hour later, she looked drained. But there was something different in her eyes. Something stronger. How'd it go? Noah asked. I told them everything. My father, the company, the corruption, all of it. She sat down next to him, her hands trembling. It's out there now. No taking it back. Good. She looked at him, and a small smile tugged at her lips. You're really something, you know that? I've been told. The interview aired 2 nights later. Noah, Lena, and Mia watched it together in the living room, Mia half asleep on Noah's lap. Lena looked composed on screen, her voice steady as she laid out the evidence, explained what she'd found, and talked about why she'd come forward. My father built an empire on lies, she said, looking directly into the camera. And I was part of it. I helped him. I looked the other way. But I can't do that anymore, not when I know what it's costing people. When it was over, Noah turned off the TV. Lena was staring at the blank screen, her face unreadable. You did good, he said quietly. Did I? Yeah, you did. Her phone started ringing. She looked at the screen and her face went pale. It's my mother. You don't have to answer. She stared at it for another second, then declined the call. But the phone kept ringing, text after text, voicemail after voicemail. Lena turned it off and set it on the table. They're not going to stop, she said. No, they're not. What if I made a mistake? You didn't. You don't know that. Yes, I do. He shifted Mia in his arms, then reached over and took Lena's hand. You did the right thing, and no matter what happens, I've got your back. She squeezed his hand, her eyes shining. I don't deserve you. Stop saying that. It's true. Lena, I mean it, Noah. You've given me everything, a place to stay, safety, hope, and all I've done is bring chaos into your life. You've also brought something else. What? He looked at her, really looked at her, and the words came easier than he expected. You've brought me back to life. Her breath caught, and for a second neither of them moved. Then Mia stirred, mumbling something in her sleep, and the moment passed. Come on, Noah said softly. Let's get her to bed. Mr. Tuss. The fallout from the interview was immediate. Charles Hart released a statement calling his daughter delusional and accusing her of seeking attention. Hart Industries stock dropped 15%. Protests erupted outside their corporate headquarters. The media circus was relentless. And then the threats started. The first one came in the mail, a plain white envelope with no return address. Inside was a single photograph of Noah's house taken from across the street with a message scrawled on the back. She's not worth dying for. Noah showed it to Ortiz, who immediately arranged for increased security. 2 plainclothes officers started doing regular drive-bys. Ortiz also suggested, again, that Noah consider protective custody. No, Noah said. Mr. Carter, I said no. We're not running, we're not hiding, we're finishing this. Ortiz sighed. You're a stubborn man. I've been told. The second threat came a week later, and it was worse. Noah was at the grocery store with Mia when his phone rang. It was Lena, and her voice was shaking. Noah, someone's in the house. His blood turned to ice. What? I heard something upstairs, footsteps. I locked myself in the bathroom, but I think they're still here. Call 911. Right now. I'm on my way. He grabbed Mia, abandoned the cart, and sprinted to the car. His hands were shaking so hard he could barely get the key in the ignition. Daddy? What's wrong? Mia asked, her voice small. Everything's fine, Bug. We just need to get home. He drove like a maniac, running 2 red lights, his heart pounding so hard he could barely breathe. When he pulled up to the house, there were already 2 police cars in the driveway. He left Mia in the car with the doors locked and ran inside. Lena was sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, an officer standing next to her. When she saw Noah, she stood and threw herself into his arms. Are you okay? He asked, holding her tight. I'm fine. They're fine. They didn't find anyone. What do you mean they didn't find anyone? The officer stepped forward. We searched the house, Mr. Carter. No sign of forced entry. No one inside. It's possible Miss Hart heard something outside, or maybe a neighbor. I know what I heard, Lena said, her voice sharp. Someone was in this house. The officer looked skeptical. We'll file a report, but without evidence. Just go, Noah said. We'll handle it. The officers left and Noah locked the door behind them, checking the windows, the back door, every possible entry point. Everything was secure, but Lena was still shaking. I'm not crazy, she said. Someone was here. I believe you. The cops don't. I don't care what they think. He sat down next to her, pulling her close. We're leaving. What? We're not staying here. It's not safe anymore. Where are we going to go? I don't know yet, but we're not staying here. Lena looked at him, and he could see the fear in her eyes. But he could also see the trust. Okay, she said. Okay, yeah. They packed that night. Just the essentials. Clothes, Mia's stuffed animals, Lena's laptop with the backup files. Noah called his brother in Pennsylvania, a guy he hadn't talked to in 2 years, and asked if they could crash for a while. His brother didn't ask questions. He just said, yes. They left before dawn while the street was still dark and quiet. Noah drove, Lena in the passenger seat, Mia asleep in the back. Nobody said much. There wasn't much to say. An hour outside the city, Lena finally spoke. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For dragging you into this. For putting Mia in danger. For—" "Lena, stop." Noah reached over and took her hand. "I chose this. I chose you. And I'd do it again." She looked at him, her eyes shining in the dim light of the dashboard. "Why?" "Because you're worth it." She didn't say anything. She just held his hand tighter. They drove through the night, the highway stretching out ahead of them. And for the first time in weeks, Noah felt like they might actually have a chance. Noah's brother lived on a small farm outside Harrisburg, a quiet place with fields and woods and no neighbors for miles. He met them at the door, a big guy with a beard and a flannel shirt, and pulled Noah into a hug. "Good to see you, man," he said. "You too, Jake." Jake looked at Lena, then at Mia, who was half asleep in Noah's arms. "Come on in. I'll put some coffee on." The house was small but warm, with a wood stove in the living room and a big kitchen table that looked like it had been there for decades. Jake didn't ask questions. He just made breakfast, set them up in the guest room, and told them they could stay as long as they needed. That first night, after Mia was asleep, Noah and Lena sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets, staring out at the fields. "You think we're safe here?" Lena asked. "For now." "And after?" "I don't know." He looked at her. "But we'll figure it out." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I'm tired, Noah. I'm so tired of running." "I know. When does it end?" "When we make it end." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I love you." Noah froze. He turned to look at her, and she was staring at him, her eyes wide and vulnerable. "I know it's crazy," she continued. "I know we barely know each other, but I do. I love you, and I needed you to know that." Noah's chest tightened. He'd known for a while now, known that what he felt for her was more than just protectiveness, more than just attraction. But hearing her say it out loud made it real in a way that terrified him. "I love you too," he said. Her breath hitched, and then she was kissing him, slow and deep, and he kissed her back, holding her like she might disappear if he let go. When they broke apart, she was crying. "We're going to get through this," Noah said. "I promise." "You can't promise that." "Watch me." She laughed, watery and broken, and leaned her forehead against his. "You're impossible." "I've been told." They sat like that for a long time, holding each other under the stars, and for the first time in weeks, Noah felt something close to hope. The next morning, Ortiz called. "Where are you?" he asked. "Somewhere safe?" "Carter, the grand jury indicted Charles Hart and 6 others this morning. It's done. They're going to trial." Noah closed his eyes, relief flooding through him. "When?" 6 months, maybe a year. But the important thing is we've got them, and Ms. Hart's testimony was key to making it happen. She'll be glad to hear that. There's something else. The FBI wants to interview you. They think you might have information that could help with the money laundering charges. "What kind of information?" "Anything you know about Hart Industries operations, people you've met, conversations you've overheard. It's a long shot, but they want to cover all the bases." Noah thought about it. "When?" "Next week. I'll send you the details." "Okay." "And Carter, stay safe. This isn't over yet." "I know." Noah hung up and found Lena in the kitchen, making pancakes with Mia. They were laughing, flour on their faces, and the sight of it made something in his chest crack open. "They indicted your father," he said. Lena turned, her eyes wide. "They did?" "Yeah. Ortiz just called." She set down the spatula, her hands trembling. "It's really happening. It's really happening." She crossed to him, and he pulled her into his arms. Mia watched them, confused but happy. "Does this mean we won?" Mia asked. Noah looked down at her, then at Lena. "Yeah, Bug. I think it does." But even as he said it, he knew the fight wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The weeks at Jake's farm fell into a rhythm that felt almost normal. Mia loved it, running through the fields, helping Jake feed the chickens, collecting eggs every morning like it was the greatest adventure of her life. She didn't ask when they were going home. She didn't seem to miss it. Noah wasn't sure if that was a good thing or not. Lena spent most of her time preparing for the trial. Ortiz sent boxes of documents, endless depositions to review, questions to practice answering. She'd sit at the kitchen table for hours, her laptop open, highlighting pages, making notes in the margins. Noah would watch her sometimes, the way her brow furrowed when she was concentrating, the way she'd chew on her bottom lip when she was anxious. "You're staring," she said one afternoon, not looking up. "Am I?" "You are." He didn't deny it. "You want some coffee?" "I want this to be over." "That's not an option." She glanced up at him, a tired smile tugging at her lips. "Then yeah, coffee would be great." He poured her a cup, set it down in front of her, and kissed the top of her head. She reached up and squeezed his hand just for a second before going back to her work. It was the small moments like that, quiet, simple, that made Noah realize how deep he was in this, how much he'd come to depend on her presence, her voice, the way she fit into his life like she'd always been there. It terrified him. The FBI interview happened on a cold Tuesday morning in a nondescript office building in Harrisburg. Noah left Mia with Jake and Lena, drove into the city, and spent 3 hours answering questions about everything he knew, which, admittedly, wasn't much. He told them about the men who'd come to his house, the threats, the brick through the window. He told them about the documents Lena had shown him, the offshore accounts, the shell companies. He told them everything. When it was over, the lead agent, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and no-nonsense demeanor, shook his hand. "You did good, Mr. Carter. This helps." "Helps how?" "We're building a conspiracy case. The more people we can tie to the operation, the stronger our case gets. Your testimony puts faces to the threats. That matters." Noah nodded, but he didn't feel reassured. "What happens now?" "Now you go home. Take care of your family, and let us do our job." He wanted to believe her. He really did. When he got back to the farm, Lena was sitting on the porch steps, wrapped in a blanket, staring out at the fields. Mia was inside with Jake, their laughter drifting through the open window. Noah sat down next to her. "You okay?" "My lawyer called." "And?" "The trial date got moved up. 3 months instead of 6. Noah's stomach tightened. "That's good, right? Gets it over with faster. Or it means they're rushing because they think they're going to lose." She looked at him, her eyes red-rimmed. "My father's team filed a motion to have my testimony thrown out. They're claiming I'm mentally unstable, that I fabricated evidence because I was angry at my family." "That's insane." "That's their strategy." She laughed, bitter and sharp. "And the worst part is, it might work. If the judge believes them, if they can convince a jury that I'm just some vindictive daughter with an axe to grind, then everything I've done, everything we've risked, it's all for nothing." Noah grabbed her hand, forcing her to look at him. "That's not going to happen." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do, because you're not lying. And the evidence doesn't lie either. They can spin it however they want, but the truth is the truth." She stared at him, her jaw trembling. "What if it's not enough?" "Then we make it enough." "How?" He thought about it, turning the problem over in his mind. "We go back on offense. You do more interviews. We get your story out there so loud they can't bury it. We make you so visible, so credible, that they can't touch you without looking like monsters." Lena shook her head. "I don't know if I can do that again. The last interview, it felt like I was stripping myself bare in front of the whole world." "You were, and you were incredible." "I was terrified." Terrified and incredible aren't mutually exclusive. She looked at him, and for a second he saw the girl who'd knocked on his door in the rain, desperate, exhausted, running out of options. But he also saw the woman she'd become since then, stronger, fiercer, someone who'd learned how to fight back. "Okay," she said finally. "Let's do it." The second round of interviews was even more intense than the first. Major networks, podcasts, print media. Everyone wanted a piece of the story. Lena sat across from reporters and talked about her father, her family, the corruption she'd uncovered. She didn't hold back. She talked about the fear, the isolation, the way her own mother had disowned her. She talked about what it cost to do the right thing, and people listened. The public response was overwhelming. Social media exploded with support for Lena, condemnation for Charles Hart. Hashtags trended. Opinion pieces were written. A grassroots movement started calling for accountability, not just for Hart Industries, but for every corporation that operated in the shadows. But with the attention came backlash. Charles Hart's team launched a smear campaign. They dredged up old photos of Lena at parties, spun stories about her being reckless and irresponsible, painted her as a spoiled rich girl who couldn't handle being cut off from her family's money. They found people willing to go on record saying she'd always been dramatic, always exaggerated, always craved attention. Noah watched it unfold with a growing sense of rage. He wanted to punch something, preferably Charles Hart's face. "They're tearing her apart," he said to Ortiz during one of their regular check-ins. "I know, but she's holding up. Better than most people would. That doesn't make it okay." "No, it doesn't." Ortiz paused. "But it means she's getting to them. If they weren't scared, they wouldn't be fighting this hard." Noah wanted to take comfort in that, but watching Lena read the latest hit piece, her face pale and tight, made it hard to see the silver lining. One night, after Mia was asleep, Lena broke down. Noah found her in the bathroom, sitting on the floor with her knees pulled to her chest, tears streaming down her face. She didn't look up when he came in. She just kept crying, her whole body shaking with it. He didn't say anything. He just sat down next to her, pulled her into his arms, and held her while she fell apart. "I can't do this anymore," she sobbed. "I can't keep fighting. I'm so tired, Noah. I'm so tired." "I know. They're going to win. They're going to destroy me, and they're going to walk away like nothing happened." "No, they're not." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." He pulled back, wiping the tears from her face. "Because you're stronger than them. You always have been. And even if they tear you down, even if they drag you through hell, you're still going to be standing at the end. Because that's who you are." She stared at him, her breath hitching. "What if I'm not? Then I'll hold you up, however long it takes." She kissed him then, desperate and messy, and he kissed her back, pouring everything he had into it, all the fear, all the hope, all the love he didn't know how to put into words. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. "I don't deserve you." "Stop saying that." "I mean it." "So do I." He cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. "You're stuck with me, Lena, whether you like it or not." She laughed, watery and broken. "I like it." "Good." The trial started on a gray Monday in March. Noah, Lena, and Mia drove back to the city the night before, staying in a hotel under assumed names. Ortiz had arranged security, plainclothes officers in the lobby, cameras in the hallways. It felt like overkill until Noah remembered the threats, the brick, the footsteps in his house. Then it felt necessary. Lena barely slept. Noah could hear her tossing and turning in the bed next to his, her breathing shallow and uneven. Around 3 in the morning, he got up and sat on the edge of her bed. "You okay?" he whispered. "No." "You want to talk about it?" "No." He lay down next to her, fully clothed, and pulled her into his arms. She buried her face in his chest, her fingers clutching his shirt. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I know. What if I mess up? What if I say the wrong thing and they get away with it?" "You won't. You don't know that." "Lena, listen to me." He tilted her chin up, forcing her to look at him. "You've already done the hardest part. You stood up. You told the truth. Tomorrow, you just have to do it again. And I'll be right there. Okay?" She nodded, her eyes wet. "Okay." They stayed like that until the sun came up, holding on to each other like it was the only thing keeping them both afloat. The courthouse was a circus. Reporters lined the steps, cameras flashing, microphones thrust forward. Protesters held signs, some supporting Lena, some condemning her. It was chaos. Noah held Mia's hand on one side, Lena's on the other, and pushed through the crowd. Security escorted them inside, through metal detectors, down long hallways that smelled like old wood and stale coffee. The courtroom was smaller than Noah expected. Rows of wooden benches, a judge's bench at the front, a jury box to the side. Charles Hart sat at the defense table, flanked by his lawyers, looking calm and composed. When Lena walked in, he didn't even glance at her. Noah wanted to hit him. Lena's hand tightened around his. "I can do this." "I know you can." She kissed Mia on the forehead, squeezed Noah's hand one more time, and walked to the witness stand. The prosecutor was a sharp woman in her 50s who didn't waste time on pleasantries. She walked Lena through the timeline, when she started working at Hart Industries, what her role was, when she first noticed the discrepancies. Lena answered every question clearly, her voice steady. Then came the cross-examination. Charles Hart's lead attorney was a man in an expensive suit with a smile that made Noah's skin crawl. He started slow, asking benign questions, lulling Lena into a rhythm. Then he struck. "Ms. Hart, isn't it true that you were fired from Hart Industries for insubordination?" Lena blinked. "I wasn't fired. I resigned. After your father confronted you about your performance issues." "That's not true." "Isn't it also true that you've struggled with anxiety and depression?" "Objection," the prosecutor said. "Relevance?" "I'm establishing the witness's mental state, Your Honor." The judge frowned. "Overruled. But make it quick, counselor." The attorney turned back to Lena. "Ms. Hart, I've had therapy, yes. A lot of people do. And during that therapy, did you ever discuss feelings of anger toward your family?" Lena's jaw tightened. "Of course I did. My family was controlling and manipulative. That's why I left. Or is it possible that these allegations are simply a manifestation of that anger? A way to lash out at a father who didn't give you what you wanted?" "No. You expect this jury to believe that you, a woman with documented mental health struggles, single-handedly uncovered a massive conspiracy that no one else noticed?" "Yes, because it's the truth." The attorney smiled. "Or it's a very convenient story." Noah's hands clenched into fists. He wanted to stand up, to shout, to do something, but he forced himself to stay still, to trust that Lena could handle this. And she did. "You want to talk about convenient?" Lena said, her voice sharp. "Let's talk about how convenient it is that my father has half the city on his payroll. How convenient it is that every time someone tries to investigate him, the case disappears. How convenient it is that he's sitting here in a $1,000 suit while the people he's stolen from can't afford rent." She leaned forward, her eyes blazing. "I'm not angry because I didn't get what I wanted. I'm angry because he's a criminal, and I'm done letting him get away with it." The courtroom went silent. The attorney stared at her, his smile gone. No further questions. But the trial dragged on for weeks. Witness after witness, document after document. Charles Hart's team fought every inch, but the evidence was overwhelming. The offshore accounts, the shell companies, the payments, all of it laid out in excruciating detail. Noah attended every Sunday he could, sitting in the gallery with Mia when she wasn't in school, watching Lena hold her ground. She was incredible. Even when the defense tried to rattle her, tried to twist her words, she stayed calm, focused, strong. But he could see it wearing on her, the dark circles under her eyes, the way her hands shook when she thought no one was looking. She was running on fumes, and Noah didn't know how much longer she could keep going. One night, after a particularly brutal day in court, they sat in the hotel room while Mia watched a movie. Lena was staring at the wall, her face blank. "Talk to me," Noah said. "There's nothing to say." "Lena, I'm fine." "You're not." She turned to him, her eyes red. "What do you want me to say, Noah? That I'm falling apart? That every time I look at my father, I want to scream? That I don't know if any of this is worth it? Is it?" She laughed, bitter and sharp. "I don't know. Ask me when it's over." He pulled her into his arms, and she let herself collapse against him, her defenses finally crumbling. "I'm proud of you," he said quietly. "You know that, right?" "You shouldn't be. I'm a mess." "You're human. There's a difference." She didn't say anything. She just held on to him, and he held on to her, and they stayed like that until Mia fell asleep and the room went quiet. The verdict came on a Friday afternoon. The jury had been deliberating for 2 days, and the waiting was agony. Noah sat in the courtroom, Lena next to him, both of them holding their breath. When the jury filed back in, Noah's heart was pounding so hard he thought it might explode. The foreman stood. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Charles Hart, guilty on all counts." The courtroom erupted. Lena's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide. Noah pulled her into his arms, and she started crying, huge, gasping sobs that shook her whole body. "You did it," he whispered. "You did it." Across the room, Charles Hart sat stone-faced, his lawyers already scrambling. But for the first time since this whole thing started, he looked small. Lena pulled back, wiping her face. "Is it really over?" "Yeah," Noah said. It's really over." She laughed, the sound bright and disbelieving, and kissed him hard. The sentencing happened 3 weeks later. Charles Hart was given 20 years. His co-conspirators got varying sentences, but the message was clear. The empire was done. Lena sat in the courtroom watching her father led away in handcuffs, and Noah saw something shift in her expression. Not relief, not satisfaction, just closure. Afterward, they stood on the courthouse steps, the spring sun warm on their faces. "What do you want to do now?" Noah asked. Lena looked at him, a small smile tugging at her lips. "I want to go home." "Where's home?" She took his hand, lacing their fingers together. "Wherever you are." Noah's chest tightened, and he pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "Then let's go home." Mia ran up to them, grabbing both their hands. "Can we get ice cream?" Lena laughed. "Yeah, Bug, we can get ice cream." They walked down the steps together, hand in hand, and for the first time in months, Noah felt like they could finally breathe. The fight was over, and they'd won. The ice cream shop was crowded, full of families and teenagers, and the kind of normal chaos that Noah had forgotten existed. Mia ordered a triple scoop of strawberry, her eyes wide with excitement, and Lena got vanilla with chocolate chips. Noah went for coffee because he was boring and he knew it. They sat outside on a bench, the three of them squished together, watching people walk by. Mia swung her legs, humming some song from a cartoon, completely content. Lena leaned against Noah's shoulder, her cone dripping onto her hand. "This is nice," she said quietly. "Yeah, it is. I forgot what normal felt like." Noah looked down at her. "You think we can do this? Normal?" She smiled, tired but genuine. "I don't know, but I want to try." Mia looked up at them, her face smeared with pink. "Are you guys going to get married?" Noah nearly choked on his ice cream. Lena's eyes went wide. "What?" Noah managed. "Sophie at school said when grown-ups love each other, they get married. Do you love each other?" Lena's face turned red, but she was smiling. "Yeah, Bug, we do." "Then you should get married." "It's not that simple, sweetheart," Noah said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Why not?" "Because—" He looked at Lena, who was biting her lip, trying not to laugh. "Because grown-up stuff is complicated." "That's a dumb reason." "You're not wrong." Lena finally lost it, laughing so hard she had to set down her cone. Mia looked pleased with herself, and Noah just shook his head, grinning despite everything. Maybe it wasn't that complicated after all. Maz. They went back to Noah's house the next day. It felt strange walking through the front door after weeks away. The broken window had been fixed, Jake had arranged it, but everything else was exactly how they'd left it. The couch where Lena had slept that first night, the kitchen table where they'd sat up late, planning how to fight back, the living room where Mia had built towers with her blocks, while the world outside tried to tear them apart. "Home," Lena said, looking around. "Yeah." She turned to him. "You sure you want me here?" "Where else would you go?" "I don't know. I could get my own place, start over somewhere." Noah crossed to her, taking her hands. "Is that what you want?" She hesitated. "No, but I don't want to assume—" "Lena, stop." He pulled her closer. "I want you here. Mia wants you here. This is your home now. If you want it to be." Her eyes filled and she nodded, quick and jerky. "I want it to be." Then it settled. She kissed him, soft and slow, and he kissed her back, feeling something settle in his chest. Something that felt a lot like peace. Work. The first few weeks were an adjustment. Lena had never really lived with anyone before. Not like this, not in a way that mattered. She didn't know where things went in the kitchen, forgot to close the shower curtain, left her laptop on the couch overnight. Small things, normal things. Noah found it endearing, also occasionally annoying. "You know there's a hook for towels, right?" he said one morning, picking a damp towel off the bathroom floor. "I know. I just forget." "Every single day?" "I'm working on it." He tossed the towel at her, and she caught it, grinning. "You're a pain. You loved me anyway." "Unfortunately." She threw the towel back at him, and they ended up laughing, tangled together in the hallway, while Mia shouted from downstairs that breakfast was getting cold. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. Chum. Lena started seeing a therapist. It was Noah's idea, gently suggested one night when she woke up from a nightmare, gasping and disoriented. She'd been dreaming about the trial, about her father's face, about the courtroom collapsing around her. "I'm fine," she'd said, her voice shaking. "You're not, and that's okay." She'd argued at first, insisted she didn't need help, that she could handle it on her own. But Noah had pushed, and eventually she'd agreed. The therapist was a woman in her 60s named Dr. Brennan, who had kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. Lena went once a week, sometimes twice, and slowly, the nightmares started to fade. She started sleeping through the night, started smiling more, started believing that maybe, just maybe, she could build a life that wasn't defined by what she'd lost. "How's it going?" Noah asked one evening after her session. "Good. Hard. But good." "You want to talk about it?" "Not really, but I will if you want me to." "Only if you want to." She leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. "Dr. Brennan says I need to stop punishing myself, that what I did, exposing my family, it wasn't a betrayal. It was survival." "She's right." "I know. It's just hard to believe sometimes." "Then I'll believe it for you, until you're ready." She looked up at him, her eyes soft. "How did I get so lucky?" "I ask myself the same thing every day." She kissed him, and he kissed her back, and for a little while, the rest of the world disappeared. Noah's consulting business picked up again. He'd been ignoring it for months, letting clients drift away, but word got out about what he'd done, helping Lena, standing up to the hearts, and suddenly, people wanted to work with him. Startups with ethical supply chains, nonprofits fighting corruption, small businesses trying to do things the right way. It felt good, using his skills for something that mattered. Lena started working too. She couldn't go back to finance. Her name was too recognizable, too tied to the scandal, but she didn't want to anyway. Instead, she started consulting for whistleblower organizations, helping people who were in the position she'd been in, teaching them how to gather evidence, how to protect themselves, how to fight back without losing everything. "I'm helping someone right now," she told Noah one night. "A woman who works for a pharmaceutical company. She found out they've been covering up side effects for one of their drugs. She's terrified, but she wants to do the right thing." "What are you telling her?" "The truth. That it's going to be hard. That people will come after her, but that she's not alone." Noah smiled. "You're good at this." "I had a good teacher." "Who, me?" "Yeah, you." He shook his head. "I didn't teach you anything. You already knew how to fight. You just needed someone to remind you." She looked at him, something fierce and tender in her eyes. "I love you." "I love you too." It still felt surreal sometimes saying those words, but every time he did, it felt a little more real. Sad. Mia's 7th birthday came in late April. They threw a party in the backyard. Just a small thing, a few kids from school, some neighbors. Lena helped Mia decorate, hanging streamers and balloons, baking a cake that was lopsided but delicious. Noah manned the grill, flipping burgers and hot dogs, watching Lena and Mia laugh together over something he couldn't hear. One of the neighbors, an older woman named Mrs. Chen, came over and stood next to him. "She's good for you," she said, nodding toward Lena. "Yeah, she is." "And for Mia, that little girl hasn't smiled this much in years." Noah glanced at his daughter, who was running around with her friends, her face lit up with joy. "I know." "You planning to marry her?" He nearly dropped his spatula, but what? "Oh, don't look so shocked. It's obvious you two are crazy about each other. It's complicated." "Life's always complicated. Doesn't mean you shouldn't go for it." She walked away before he could respond, leaving him standing there, thinking. Was he planning to marry her? He hadn't really let himself think about it. Everything had been so chaotic, so uncertain. But standing there watching Lena tie Mia's shoe, watching the way she fit into his life like she'd always been there, he realized something. He wanted to marry her. He wanted her to stay. Not just for now, but forever. The thought scared him, but it also felt right. A few weeks later, Noah found himself standing in a jewelry store, staring at a display of engagement rings. He had no idea what he was doing. He'd been married before, but that had been different. That had been a mistake, a relationship built on the wrong reasons. This was real. "Can I help you?" The saleswoman was young, enthusiastic, clearly hoping for a commission. "I need a ring." "Engagement?" "Yeah." "Do you know what she likes?" Noah thought about Lana. She didn't wear much jewelry. She was practical, no nonsense. But she also had a softer side, one that liked old movies and vanilla ice cream and the way Mia laughed at her jokes. Something simple, he said. Not too flashy, but meaningful. The saleswoman smiled. I think I have just the thing. She pulled out a ring, a thin gold band with a small round diamond. It was understated, elegant, perfect. I'll take it. Don't you want to see some others? Nope. That's the one. He walked out of the store 10 minutes later, the ring box burning a hole in his pocket. Now he just had to figure out how to ask her. That he didn't plan it. He wasn't good at planning things like that. It happened on a random Tuesday evening. Mia was asleep upstairs. Noah and Lena were sitting on the porch, the same porch where they'd sat so many times before, watching the stars come out. I've been thinking, Noah said. About what? About us. About the future. Lena turned to him, her expression cautious. Okay. He reached into his pocket, pulled out the ring box, and set it on the table between them. Lena's eyes went wide. Noah, I know this is fast. I know we've only known each other a few months, but Lena, I can't imagine my life without you. You've changed everything. You've made me want things I didn't think I could have. A family, a future, something real. He opened the box, revealing the ring. So I'm asking, will you marry me? She stared at the ring, then at him, her eyes shining. You're serious. Completely. Noah, Her voice broke. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm good at this, at being part of a family, at staying in one place. You don't have to be good at it. You just have to want it. She looked at him, and he could see the fear in her eyes, but he could also see something else. Hope. I want it, she said quietly. I want you. I want Mia. I want this life. I'm just scared I'll mess it up. You won't. You don't know that. Yes, I do, because you care, because you show up, because even when things are hard, you don't run. That's all that matters. She started crying, full-on tears streaming down her face. You're really asking me to marry you? Yeah, I am. Okay. He blinked. Okay? Okay, yes, I'll marry you. He laughed, relief flooding through him, and pulled her into his arms. She was crying and laughing at the same time, and he slipped the ring onto her finger, his hands shaking. I love you, he said. I love you too. They sat there holding each other under the stars, and Noah felt something he hadn't felt in years. Complete. They didn't tell Mia right away. They wanted to wait for the right moment. But Mia, being Mia, figured it out about 2 days later when she spotted the ring on Lena's finger. You got engaged, she shrieked, launching herself at Lena. Lena laughed, catching her. We did. Does that mean you're going to be my mom? Lena's breath caught. She looked at Noah, who nodded, his eyes wet. Yeah, Bug, Lena said quietly. If you want me to be. I do. Mia hugged her so hard Lena almost fell over, and Noah joined in. The three of them tangled together on the living room floor, laughing and crying and holding on tight. This was it. This was family. Ashem. They got married 3 months later in Jake's backyard. It was small, just close friends, a few family members, Ortiz and his wife. Mia was the flower girl, her dress covered in butterflies, her smile brighter than the sun. Lena wore a simple white dress, her hair down, no veil. Noah wore a suit he'd bought off the rack because he didn't care about fancy. He just cared about her. When they stood at the makeshift altar holding hands, he couldn't stop smiling. You ready for this? He whispered. Terrified, she whispered back. Good. Me too. The ceremony was short, the vows simple. They promised to love each other, to show up, to keep fighting even when things got hard. They promised to build a life together, one day at a time. When the officiant said, You may kiss the bride, Noah pulled Lena close and kissed her like it was the first time and the last time all at once. Everyone cheered, Mia threw flower petals. And for the first time in his life, Noah felt like everything he'd been through, the divorce, the custody battle, the chaos with the hearts, it had all been worth it, because it had led him here, to her. The first year of marriage was messy. They fought about stupid things, who forgot to take out the trash, whose turn it was to do the dishes, how to handle Mia's homework. They weren't perfect, They made mistakes, but they also learned how to apologize, how to compromise, how to choose each other even when it was hard. Lena kept working with whistleblowers, and Noah kept growing his business. They talked about having another kid someday, maybe adopting. They talked about moving to a bigger house, or maybe staying exactly where they were. They talked about the future like it was something real, something they could hold on to. And slowly, the past started to feel less heavy. Lena stopped flinching every time she saw a news story about her father. She stopped checking over her shoulder when they went out. She stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. One night, almost a year after the wedding, she turned to Noah in bed. "I think I'm happy," she said. He smiled. "You think?" "No, I know. I'm happy." "Good. You?" "Yeah, me too." She curled into his side, her head on his chest, and he wrapped his arms around her. This was what he'd fought for. This quiet, ordinary happiness. This life they'd built together, piece by piece, from the wreckage of everything that had come before. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. 2 years after the trial, Lena got a call from a reporter. They were doing a follow-up story on the Hart Industries case, checking in on where everyone was now. Charles Hart was still in prison, appealing his sentence but losing. The executives who'd been convicted were scattered, broken. The company had been dismantled, sold off piece by piece. "And you?" the reporter asked. "How are you doing?" Lena looked around the kitchen. Mia was at the table, working on a school project. Noah was at the stove, making dinner, humming off key. The house smelled like garlic and tomatoes and home. "I'm good," she said. "Really good." "Any regrets?" She thought about everything she'd lost, her family, her career, the life she'd thought she wanted. And then she thought about everything she'd gained. "No," she said. "No regrets." When she hung up, Noah looked over at her. "Who was that?" "Just someone from the past." "You okay?" "Yeah, I'm okay." He smiled, and she smiled back, and Mia asked if she could have ice cream after dinner. This was her life now. Not the one she'd planned, not the one she'd expected, but the one she'd chosen. And that made all the difference. Years later, when Mia was older and asking questions about how Noah and Lena had met, they told her the truth. About the knock on the door, the desperation, the fear, about the fight, the trial, the way everything had nearly fallen apart. "You were really brave, Mom," Mia said to Lena. Lena shook her head. "I wasn't brave. I was terrified." "But you did it anyway." "Yeah, I did. That's what brave means." Lena looked at Noah, who was watching them with that same soft expression he always got when he looked at his family. "Your dad was the brave one," Lena said. "He's the one who opened the door." "Because I saw you," Noah said, "and I couldn't walk away." "Why not?" Mia asked. "Because sometimes the hardest thing to do is also the right thing, and your mom needed help. So I helped." Mia thought about that. "I'm glad you did." "Me too, Bug. Me too." The truth was, Noah had learned something through all of it, something he tried to carry with him every day. Life didn't hand out second chances very often. And when it did, you had to be brave enough to take them, even when you were scared, even when you didn't know how it would turn out, even when every logical part of your brain was screaming at you to protect yourself, to play it safe. Because sometimes the best things in life came from the moments when you chose to be reckless, when you chose to open the door, when you chose to let someone in, even when you didn't know if it would break you. Lena had needed someone to see her that night, to really see her, not as a problem or a risk, but as a person who was drowning and needed a hand. And Noah had needed someone to remind him that he was more than his past, that he was capable of love, of building something real, of being the kind of person who showed up when it mattered. They'd saved each other, not in some grand, dramatic way, but in the small, everyday ways that actually counted, by choosing each other over and over again, even when it was hard. That was the lesson, if there was one. That courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about being scared out of your mind and doing it anyway. It was about standing up when it would be easier to walk away. It was about loving people, even when they came with complications, with baggage, with scars. Because everyone was messy, everyone was imperfect, and the people who pretended otherwise were lying. The real magic was in finding someone whose mess fit with yours, whose scars told a story that made sense next to your own, whose imperfections didn't make you love them less. They made you love them more, Shaz. On their 5th anniversary, Noah and Lena sat on that same porch, the same stars overhead. Mia was 12 now, inside on a video call with friends, her laughter drifting through the open window. You ever think about that night? Lena asked. Which one? The first one, when I knocked on your door. All the time. You should have turned me away. Probably. But you didn't. No, I didn't. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I'm glad. Me too. Think we would have found each other some other way if that night hadn't happened? Noah thought about it, about fate, about chance, about the million tiny decisions that had led them here. I don't know, he said honestly. But I'm glad we didn't have to find out. Lena smiled. Me too. They sat there in comfortable silence, holding hands, watching the world turn. And Noah thought about how strange life was. How one decision, one moment of choosing to be brave instead of safe, could change everything. He'd opened a door. She'd walked through it, and together they'd built something neither of them had expected, but both of them needed. A home, a family, a life. It wasn't perfect. It never would be. But it was real, and it was theirs. And in the end, that was all that mattered. The ice cream shop was crowded, full of families and teenagers, and the kind of normal chaos that Noah had forgotten existed. Mia ordered a triple scoop of strawberry, her eyes wide with excitement, and Lena got vanilla with chocolate chips. Noah went for coffee, because he was boring and he knew it. They sat outside on a bench, the three of them squished together, watching people walk by. Mia swung her legs, humming some song from a cartoon, completely content. Lena leaned against Noah's shoulder, her cone dripping onto her hand. This is nice, she said quietly. Yeah, it is. I forgot what normal felt like. Noah looked down at her. You think we can do this? Normal? She smiled, tired but genuine. I don't know, but I want to try. Mia looked up at them, her face smeared with pink. Are you guys going to get married? Noah nearly choked on his ice cream. Lena's eyes went wide. What? Noah managed. Sophie at school said when grown-ups love each other, they get married. Do you love each other? Lena's face turned red, but she was smiling. Yeah, Bug, we do. Then you should get married. It's not that simple, sweetheart, Noah said, trying to keep his voice steady. Why not? Because, he looked at Lena, who was biting her lip, trying not to laugh. Because grown-up stuff is complicated. That's a dumb reason. You're not wrong. Lena finally lost it, laughing so hard she had to set down her cone. Mia looked pleased with herself, and Noah just shook his head, grinning despite everything. Maybe it wasn't that complicated after all. They went back to Noah's house the next day. It felt strange walking through the front door after weeks away. The broken window had been fixed, Jake had arranged it, but everything else was exactly how they'd left it. The couch where Lena had slept that first night. The kitchen table where they'd sat up late, planning how to fight back. The living room where Mia had built towers with her blocks, while the world outside tried to tear them apart. Home, Lena said, looking around. Yeah, she turned to him. You sure you want me here? Where else would you go? I don't know, I could get my own place. Start over somewhere. Noah crossed to her, taking her hands. Is that what you want? She hesitated. No, but I don't want to assume. Lena, stop. He pulled her closer. I want you here. Mia wants you here. This is your home now, if you want it to be. Her eyes filled and she nodded, quick and jerky. I want it to be. Then it settled. She kissed him, soft and slow, and he kissed her back, feeling something settle in his chest, something that felt a lot like peace. The first few weeks were an adjustment. Lena had never really lived with anyone before. Not like this. Not in a way that mattered. She didn't know where things went in the kitchen, forgot to close the shower curtain, left her laptop on the couch overnight. Small things. Normal things. Noah found it endearing, also occasionally annoying. You know there's a hook for towels, right? He said one morning, picking a damp towel off the bathroom floor. I know, I just forget. Every single day? I'm working on it. He tossed the towel at her and she caught it, grinning. You're a pain. You love me anyway. Unfortunately. She threw the towel back at him, and they ended up laughing, tangled together in the hallway while Mia shouted from downstairs that breakfast was getting cold. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. Lena started seeing a therapist. It was Noah's idea, gently suggested one night when she woke up from a nightmare, gasping and disoriented. She'd been dreaming about the trial, about her father's face, about the courtroom collapsing around her. I'm fine, she'd said, her voice shaking. You're not. And that's okay. She'd argued at first, insisted she didn't need help, that she could handle it on her own, but Noah had pushed, and eventually she'd agreed. The therapist was a woman in her 60s named Dr. Brennan, who had kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. Lena went once a week, sometimes twice, and slowly the nightmares started to fade. She started sleeping through the night, started smiling more, started believing that maybe, just maybe, she could build a life that wasn't defined by what she'd lost. How's it going? Noah asked one evening after her session. Good. Hard. But good. You want to talk about it? Not really, but I will if you want me to. Only if you want to. She leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. Dr. Brennan says I need to stop punishing myself. That what I did, exposing my family, it wasn't a betrayal. It was survival. She's right. I know. It's just hard to believe sometimes. Then I'll believe it for you, until you're ready. She looked up at him, her eyes soft. How did I get so lucky? I ask myself the same thing every day. Noah started getting calls from journalists, advocacy groups, even a few authors who wanted to write about what had happened. Everyone wanted the story of the man who'd stood up to a billionaire. But Noah turned them all down. This wasn't about him. It had never been about him. Lena, though, she took a few of the calls. She started consulting for whistleblower organizations, helping people who were in the position she'd been in, teaching them how to gather evidence, how to protect themselves, how to fight back without losing everything. I'm helping someone right now, she told Noah one night. A woman who works for a pharmaceutical company. She found out they've been covering up side effects for one of their drugs. She's terrified, but she wants to do the right thing. What are you telling her? The truth. That it's going to be hard, that people will come after her, but that she's not alone. Noah smiled. You're good at this. I had a good teacher. Who, me? Yeah, you. He shook his head. I didn't teach you anything. You already knew how to fight. You just needed someone to remind you. She looked at him, something fierce and tender in her eyes. I love you. I love you too. 6 months after the trial ended, Noah found himself standing in a jewelry store, staring at a display of engagement rings. He had no idea what he was doing. He'd been married before, but that had been different. That had been a mistake, a relationship built on the wrong reasons. This was real. Can I help you? The saleswoman was young, enthusiastic. I need a ring. Engagement? Yeah. Do you know what she likes? Noah thought about Lena. She didn't wear much jewelry. She was practical, no nonsense. But she also had a softer side, one that liked old movies and vanilla ice cream and the way Mia laughed at her jokes. Something simple, he said. Not too flashy, but meaningful. The saleswoman smiled. I think I have just the thing. She pulled out a ring, a thin gold band with a small, round diamond. It was understated, elegant, perfect. I'll take it. He didn't plan it. He wasn't good at planning things like that. It happened on a random Tuesday evening. Mia was asleep upstairs. Noah and Lena were sitting on the porch, watching the stars come out. I've been thinking, Noah said. About what? About us? About the future. Lena turned to him, her expression cautious. Okay. He reached into his pocket, pulled out the ring box, and set it on the table between them. Lena's eyes went wide. Noah, I know this is fast. I know we've only known each other a few months. But Lena, I can't imagine my life without you. You've changed everything. You've made me want things I didn't think I could have. A family, a future, something real. He opened the box. So I'm asking, will you marry me? She stared at the ring, then at him, her eyes shining. You're serious. Completely. Noah, Her voice broke. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm good at this, at being part of a family. You don't have to be good at it. You just have to want it. She looked at him, and he could see the fear in her eyes. But he could also see hope. I want it, she said quietly. I want you. I want Mia. I want this life. Then say yes. Yes. She started crying. Yes, I'll marry you. He laughed, relief flooding through him, and pulled her into his arms. She was crying and laughing at the same time, and he slipped the ring onto her finger, his hands shaking. They got married 3 months later in Jake's backyard. It was small, just close friends, a few family members, Ortiz and his wife. Mia was the flower girl, her dress covered in butterflies, her smile brighter than the sun. When they stood at the makeshift altar, holding hands, Noah couldn't stop smiling. You ready for this? He whispered. Terrified, she whispered back. Good. Me too. The vows were simple. They promised to love each other, to show up, to keep fighting even when things got hard. They promised to build a life together, one day at a time. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Noah pulled Lena close and kissed her like it was the first time and the last time all at once. Everyone cheered. Mia threw flower petals. And for the first time in his life, Noah felt like everything he'd been through had been worth it, because it had led him here, to her. The first year of marriage was messy. They fought about stupid things. Who forgot to take out the trash, whose turn it was to do the dishes. They weren't perfect. They made mistakes, but they also learned how to apologize, how to compromise, how to choose each other even when it was hard. And slowly, the past started to feel less heavy. Lena stopped checking over her shoulder when they went out. She stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. One night, almost a year after the wedding, she turned to Noah in bed. I think I'm happy, she said. He smiled. You think? No, I know. I'm happy. Good. She curled into his side, her head on his chest, and he wrapped his arms around her. This was what he'd fought for, this quiet, ordinary happiness, this life they'd built together, piece by piece, from the wreckage of everything that had come before. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. Because the truth was, Noah had learned something through all of it. Life didn't hand out second chances very often, and when it did, you had to be brave enough to take them, even when you were scared, even when you didn't know how it would turn out. Sometimes, the best things in life came from the moments when you chose to be reckless, when you chose to open the door, when you chose to let someone in, even when you didn't know if it would break you. Lena had needed someone to see her that night, to really see her, not as a problem or a risk, but as a person who was drowning and needed a hand. And Noah had needed someone to remind him that he was more than his past, that he was capable of building something real. They'd saved each other. Not in some grand, dramatic way, but in the small, everyday ways that actually counted. By choosing each other over and over again, even when it was hard. That was the lesson, if there was one. That courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about being scared and doing it anyway. It was about standing up when it would be easier to walk away. It was about loving people even when they came with complications, with baggage, with scars. Because everyone was messy, everyone was imperfect, and the real magic was in finding someone whose mess fit with yours. On their second anniversary, Noah and Lena sat on that same porch, the same stars overhead. Mia was 9 now, inside reading before bed. You ever think about that night? Lena asked. Which one? The first one, when I knocked on your door. All the time. You should have turned me away. Probably. But you didn't. No, I didn't. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I'm glad. Me too. They sat there in comfortable silence, holding hands. And Noah thought about how strange life was. How one decision, one moment of choosing to be brave instead of safe, could change everything. He'd opened a door, she'd walked through it, and together they'd built something neither of them had expected but both of them needed. A home, a family, a life. It wasn't perfect, it never would be, but it was real, and it was theirs. And in the end, that was all that mattered.